While we wait for them, let me do one simple thing. We can go and look at this.
Pallavi messaged in our WhatsApp group. Actually, she is joining.
Okay, good. So today I have a small thing for us to do quickly. I just want to remember I asked. By the way, Kiran, are you there? Kiran? Okay, I don't hear her.
She's on mute.
Okay, so I will start.
Yes, Kiran, there.
Yeah. Just, but by the way, you haven't taken the survey, Kiran, or at least I don't see your response.
Okay, I'll do it.
Okay, just do it. Okay, so that I have everything in one place. So let me just review with you. The reason is I told you I take your surveys and I just analyze them to make sure we're all on the same page. It gives you a chance to focus on what you want to accomplish from the course, right? So pretty clear. What main reasons for taking the course? People want to be upgrading your skills, be ready for the future. I think data science seems kind of popular with all of you. I do want to say that there's a follow-up course to this, definitely, if not two courses. One is to focus on the algorithms of data science. That's going to be a little bit of a heavy course. And then there's another course which is also quite important. It's the mathematics of data science. But we'll see. There's a way to do algorithms without fully understanding the mathematics also. So maybe we can try a course of that kind. May I ask quickly, is that interesting to you? If we do a course to discuss the algorithms of data science?
Yes, Vijay, I think so.
But I have to put this caveat there that I cannot do the mathematics justice if we have like a few weeks, because clearly there's more mathematics there, right? But what I can do is I can show you how, I can tell you, I can give you pictures and tell you how does the algorithm work. And then in a follow-up course, we can do the actual mathematics and the implementations and so on. Right? So for example, neural network is an algorithm that we can use. We can use it, but then you won't know exactly how a neural network works. If you want to know exactly how it works, then I have to give you the mathematics. But I can draw some pictures and show you how the layers in a neural network are created and how they feed forward to each other and all that stuff. Okay, so anyway, let's get through this course and then we talk about that. Okay, so, again, just to reiterate, this course will allow us to manipulate data, to visualize data, etc. So there's a lot of data related stuff. I'm actually working on some of the content for the next few sessions. And I must say, as always, I find when I sit and write these things down, it is pretty nice. So, okay. What do you expect to learn? So let's make sure how to handle structured, unstructured data. That's a very, very nice focused response. Data science and applying Python for data management. That's pretty much what I want to get done. So I think we are all thinking about the right way. Learn Python and scientific libraries. So Python we can learn how to use the libraries. Like I said, again, just the algorithms part for later, okay? Handy algorithms and tool that will help me write a quick program. Yeah, I think this can be done. Okay, so this was interesting. So let's just look at this. Challenges you face. So installation was a problem as always. Learning and remembering syntax. It's interesting that many of you felt that was very problematic, okay? Because I think the other one, for example, figuring out how to write the code to solve a specific problem, that's harder than learning the syntax. But from your survey, it seems, or maybe by the end of this course, if we take the survey again, you will agree with me that figuring out how to write the code is probably, hi Prakash, I think you just joined. Are you there? You might be on mute. Okay, I'll continue. Designing and writing good programs. Now so if you ask me, so I just want to say to you that I don't even know in what order I would put it, okay? So I would actually say finding interesting problems at the right level is the hardest thing for me, right? Then I would say designing and writing good programs, the next hardest thing, right? because it's very hard to design a program which is nice and clean. Figuring out how to write the exact code, yes, once you have a design, implementing is harder. Learning and remembering syntax is less harder. So it's very interesting, right? For you, it looks exactly opposite hierarchy to me. But maybe that's just experience. Okay, so we'll see how does it change as we go along. Okay. In terms of programming languages, yes, we talked about this a couple of times. So some of you know C and C++. In fact, more of you. So I'm also a little surprised by that because I thought Java would become the first. But maybe it's because they teach C and C++ in schools in India and so on, that everybody has encounter with C and C++. Is that the reason? Or there was a work experience that all of you got exposed to C and C++? Is it a school, college experience or work?
School, college for me.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a very interesting thing. So I will just mention it for today. There is some real benefit to learning C and C++. The problem is that to get the benefit, you have to learn it really well. And most people don't really learn it well, right? So, I mean, I don't blame the student. I blame the teachers and the courses and so on, because it's very hard to teach C and C++. You really have to understand some details of, it's a very, very, like managing pointers, allocating memory. There are all kinds of strategies that you have to master if you want to be a good C programmer. Kind of languages like Java and VB take care of that for you. So anyway, but I can ask right now quickly, Sachin, what is your experience so far playing with Python? Compare it. Suppose you had a class in college writing C or Python. Where do you think you would pick up programming ideas faster?
So I actually love the way actually the Python actually I saw is really cool actually, and I don't think it's a different from C, but yeah, it's like pretty easy compared to C.
Yes. No, easy in the sense that you start solving problems, right? In C, you have to, if I want to iterate to an array, I have to allocate pointer, I have to compute the length of the array. There's various detailed things that you have to manage. And it prevents you from focusing on the problem at hand, which is iterate through the array. Right? So it's a higher level programming language, right? So I'm actually pushing for this. I will just mention this to all of you. You can think about this. I am very committed towards education and programming, okay? And I would love to work with schools and colleges in India to help students there. One of the helps is to get these schools and colleges to modernize the curriculum, right? Rather than teaching C and C++, let's pick these new languages. Let's make courses that introduce some data science related ideas early on, etc. We can modernize the syllabus. So if you have contacts or you think of ideas how we can work with more either students or better they learn as students, otherwise they have to learn on the job. But even on the job, I think if we can get to this next level where we're all sharpening our programming skills, it could be really good. I just don't know how to find all these people and help them, right? So if you have ideas, you can send me email, we can talk about it more.
Sure.
Okay, so yeah, looks like most of you have coding experience. Just a couple little less, but that's okay. I think it's actually nice to have a blend in the class, so that because some people have less programming experience, I will be forced to talk about all the small details. I won't just say, oh, it's easy, let's just jump forward, right? So that will keep me disciplined. For those who are advanced, always when I'm explaining something that seems fairly simple, you can either work on something or think about how would you explain that idea. And if you have a nice idea how to explain that concept, just interrupt me and you can just make your comment. I think about it like this, or this is how I learned it. It can help, different point of view than mine. So I like the classes which have a blend of experiences. Okay. So again, in terms of what you want me to focus on, I think this one is kind of aligned with me. Focusing on concepts is probably more important than syntax. And then I think writing interesting programs. Okay. So writing interesting programs, you guys have to help me make sure that we get the right programs. In the beginning, it's a little hard because I don't have all the tools, but we will slowly upgrade the programs to make them relevant and interesting. Okay. Learn how to use data management libraries. Starting from next class, we will straight away go there. So I think that's good. Connections to real world applications. Also, I will make sure that, all my examples are connected to that. Oh, by the way, I'll pause quickly. Prakash, Pallavi, are you here? Can you hear me? Everything's good?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Hi, Prakash. Pallavi, are you there too? You might be.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm
Okay.
here. Yeah, sorry, I was on mute.
No problem. Yes, we are, you have all of you have to be good at mute and unmute. That's the one requirement. Don't hesitate to unmute and ask me questions, though. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, and by mistake, sometimes I hope you're not asking me questions and thinking I'm not responding, but make sure you're not on mute because if I don't hear the
Yeah.
question, yeah. Okay. So I think we're good. I just covered this survey quickly, okay, so that we can, I wanted to give everyone a chance to join me. But before I start today's discussion, can I just quickly follow up and make sure that, all of you had some time to think about our first session, you feel like you're on track. If you have any questions, you can ask. Always difficult when people say ask questions, right? Okay, if there are no questions, make a comment. Was it easy? Was it hard? Was it fun? I'll pick on Praveen. Praveen, what was it? Praveen was very patient. He came to the other session.
Yeah, it was interesting, and it will be interesting as you are our instructor and I have that experience, so
Yes.
no doubt about that.
Yes. No, so that's good, right? So just give me some feedback, okay? Just let me know. Sachin, did you get any time to practice or anything?
Yeah,
Actually,
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel so far?
So good actually. I like practice all the question we discussed in the last actually class.
Good.
Mostly I covered.
Good. What about Prakash? You got some time as well, or?
Yeah, I practiced those few questions that we had.
Yes. Any challenges or obstacles for you?
Nothing as of now. I mean,
Okay.
just starting, so
Okay.
syntax and all those things are pretty simple as of now.
Okay. Then let me just put Pallavi on the spot as well. Pallavi, what about you?
No, I didn't get to practice, but it was definitely fun.
Okay. But do make sure, okay, over the next few weeks, just make sure you get this 1 hour somewhere, okay? I know it's hard, but remember that a lot of programming is about getting ideas implanted firmly in your mind. Okay, so just do make sure you get some time to write code. Anyway, today I'm going to give out assignments, so that will kind of force you to write code, so I will know for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let me go through now some important stuff. Okay, so we did loops last time. So I'm assuming that there are no real questions on loops. So now let me switch to logic. Okay, so now this usually I do a whole hour on this, but today I'm going to keep it short for you guys. This discussion on logic is very important discussion, right? Basically, if you go abstractly and ask a question, how can I take what we consider logic or logical reasoning and convert it into a language that a machine can understand? And since I know this class has people who kind of like mathematics a little bit, I always emphasize this idea that, this work was done by George Boole, and George Boole's idea was that his idea was basically in order to represent logic, unlike using numbers, right, integers and so on, in order to do, sorry, I'm scrolling too much, but just give me a second. In order to do logic properly, unlike using just kind of integers, you need to change your number system to pretend that there are only two values in the world, right? So that the set of values that you work on, if you're working in logic, is a discrete set. It's discrete and it's finite, right? So imagine this amazing shift in focus, right? Because all of mathematics was discovered or was emphasized on geometry and real numbers and real line and all these things. They all tend to go towards a world where the set in question is actually not discrete. It's a continuous set. The real line is an example of this. And it's infinite, right? So someday, if you guys are interested, we will talk about what a big mindset shift it is to go from discrete and finite to discrete and infinite, and then non-discrete and infinite, right? Very, very big shift in mathematical approach. So anyway, so Boole basically said, okay, I will have two values, true and false, and that will be the foundation for my Boolean, well, we call it Boolean logic today. That will be my mathematical foundations. So in Python, let's just start away. All of you should just type up this little code here. Is my screen big enough? Everyone can see, or somebody tell me? Yeah.
Yes,
So,
yes.
yeah. So you can make variables, identifiers. You can give them any name you want, but in Python, the right-hand side is important. The right-hand side has to be written with a capital T. Right. So now, as we talked about last time, so far we have seen what are the different types we've encountered so far. Can we list them out?
Int and string.
Int and string. Did we do float?
No.
Okay, so I will just mention float as well today. Okay, so just look at this. So actually Python floats are very easy because first of all, if you make a variable a and you just put 1.5, and then that's going to be a floating point number in Python, right? So if you actually look at it, it's a floating point number. But what is nice is that Python automatically, so if I do 1/3, what do you think the type of a will be? Anyone?
Float.
Yeah, it automatically, but 1 and 3 are integers, yes?
Correct.
Correct. So in C, for example, Sachin will tell me what happens if you declare a to be of type int and then do 1/3, what happens? What
Truncation.
No, it'll just blow up. It'll complain. You cannot convert integers to float. Because a has to be an integer in C, right? The left-hand side needs an integer, the right-hand side. So I don't think C auto-converts it. If you auto-convert, it will only capture the integer part, right? So it's kind of interesting. Sorry, I can't put it. So anyway, so that's all you have to know right now about float. Later we can talk a lot more about float. So let us continue. So anyway, so we have a new type now. And the first question is, whenever we encounter a new type is, I want you to ask the question, what operations can we do on this type? Right? And this now takes us again back to Boole. And Boole said, look, there are 3 logical operators that make sense on these types. I can ask, if I have variables, I can ask if I can take one variable and the other variable. I'm going to write a little piece of code here. Small abstract idea though. I want to combine the 2 variables, but I want to put and between them, right? Now, so this is like a function. So I want you to think of and. We don't do this in language when we speak, right? It is sunny and I'm happy. I don't think of and as a function, but for now I'm saying and is like a function. It takes 2 clauses, right? It takes 2 clauses. The value of those 2 clauses must be booleans. Does that make sense? So like I'm happy is like a boolean clause. Either I'm happy or I'm not happy. So this clause is either true or false, right? And it is sunny is also a boolean clause. It can be true or false, right? So the and operator takes 2 boolean clauses and combines them, right? And so now the question is, so and is like a function. It takes 2 values. Now I'm going to say something very profound. Every function, you should go back and think about this because I don't have time today to spend time on that idea. Every function can be represented as a table. Okay, and in particular, because it's a finite set of values that A and B can take. For example, if I have 2 values, there are only 4 possible combinations of A and B. And so the whole function can be defined by giving me the 3rd column here. Right, so basically says true and true is true, right? And that's the only condition. If both clauses are true, then the and is also true, right? And then we are done. Once you have this table, you have written the and function. Right, so that's another beautiful thing about discrete mathematics is that all functions can become tables, right? And so they call them truth tables. So this is the truth table of the and function, right? But what is important for us right now is not the theory of it, but the practical thing. If I have 2 conditions, which are Boolean conditions, that is important. Then I can combine them and I can ask what is A and B. So can all of you just quickly, I'll give you 1 minute. Just quickly create something like this and just play. Can you check out couple of the truth table situations. So for example, let me go to the one that works. If I say both are true, then the condition must be true. Yes, and must be true. Can you check out the other couple of combinations just to be familiar with this syntax? Notice how Python is kind of cute. It allows you to write and like that, like the English and, right? There's also this and. By the way, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I use a specific font that it does some nice things when you type symbols. Okay, so this is actually the and on your keyboard. Okay, so A and B. So when you type it, it might look different. You should type the ampersand symbol. So you can either use the ampersand or you can type the English and. Okay, so let me ask quickly, which and do you guys prefer for your code? You want ampersand or you want A and D? Anyone?
Ampersand.
Why? Because you learned it. English looks more friendly, no, Pallavi?
Yeah, English, but I can make it capital A and D and create an issue and all. It's like sticking to symbols for functions helps.
Later, if you do some complicated example, you'll see sometimes the English is nice to read because it reads like an English sentence. Okay, but you can change it. Okay, so let's go. Yeah. Anyway, that's a good comment. Anyone else agree with Pallavi, or does anyone like A and D English?
English is good.
English is good. Praveen says English is good. Yes. Okay. So we are divided. Okay. We'll figure it out as we go. Okay. So now the next operator, right, is OR. And I'm saying when I introduce these operators now, since I've explained all the information is contained in the truth table, I will just show you the truth table. But go back and spend some time thinking about how you use OR logically, right? Does the truth table reflect what you expect logically? So if you look at the OR table, it's kind of it's like the complement of the AND table. The only condition in which, this is called exclusive OR, right? The only condition in which OR is true, if A, how do I say this? Let's look at the other table. You see there's only one condition where all of them are true. And in OR, there's only one condition where all of them are false. So it's kind of like flipped around. Okay, but look for this. So only if A is false. Yeah, I don't know what words I want to say. Just stare at the table. Ask me a question if you need me to say anything. Okay. So basically, OR requires that at least one value must be true. That is one way to say it. Okay. OR requires that at least one of the values A or B must be true. Then it will be true. At least one. Okay. And then the not is just a negation. So if something is true, not A. If A is true, then not A is false. Okay. So anyway, the bottom line is with these three operators, we can go a long way. We can combine things, right? So as I said in my example, is sunny. We can do is sunny is true. This is a Boolean condition. And then you can say is, I don't know, let's make two Boolean conditions. Is cool or is not hot equals true. So you can do some calculation to determine, like even you can connect it to a sensor that will determine if it's sunny or it's not hot. And then you can combine these conditions, right? So you can say is sunny and is not hot, and it will evaluate it for us, right? So this is what I was trying to say. It starts to look like an English sentence. It starts to look like if you write it like this. Okay, so these Boolean expressions are quite interesting things. I don't have enough time to dwell on the Boolean part, so I'm going to keep moving forward. Please interrupt me and ask questions. Okay, these are complicated things, but okay, we can take a simple approach and start working, and then later you'll have questions. But don't hesitate to ask me questions. So the next thing we want to do with this Boolean things is to make comparisons. So again, to compare things, there's a bunch of operators. So you might have encountered these operators before. Let me ask a mildly abstract question. So equal to or greater than, can you tell me something? What is common about all these operators?
They give answer in Boolean.
Okay.
The result is a Boolean.
Yes, that is very important, right? So they take, actually, so it's very interesting. It's a map from the world of non-Booleans, right, back into Booleans, right? So for example, if I ask is I said x equals 3 and I ask is x equal to 5, and it's going to check and it's going to return either true or false, right? So x is an integer. The right hand side of the equality also is an integer, but the equals operator is returning a Boolean. So these operators are all maps from the world of non-Booleans or integers or floats or strings back into Boolean, right? So it's really interesting. Wherever we do the actual logic, we keep encountering back again Boolean values. So when you start to write code, you can always think, did I get the right Boolean thing back? Then only it makes sense. Okay, so I think I put something for you to write code for a minute. So yeah, do this one. Not define a variable called temperature, write a Boolean condition that will return true if the temperature is greater than 55 and less than 75. Let's take 2 minutes. Let me know as soon as you finish typing it. All of you have your notebooks with you, right? So who's finished? Are we done? Not yet?
This is done, Vijay. Like I have a question.
Yes.
Like you are showing us something like where Boolean like comparison. There was a fifth condition within the double quote.
Which fifth condition? Oh, in my notes, you mean? Sorry.
Yeah, in your notes.
Yeah, what is
this one? The last print. The A less than B with the double quote.
Ah,
So
yes,
how
yes.
is it like being true actually?
Okay, so this is a thing about double quotes in Python. We actually clearly this, I don't need to write it like this at all. It should be single quotes, okay? But in Python, it double quote is also a string. Okay, and the reason why we have two string operators is because if you want to write a string with a punctuation in it, suppose I want to have a single quote in a punctuation. Suppose okay, so let me make an example. Suppose I want to have something like a comment. Sorry, let me just say C. So if I want to say I'm happy, like this, like an English sentence, then you see that I've used a punctuation inside my sentence. Yes, and if I put single quotes, it's going to get confused, right? It's going to think the string ends here.
Got it. Yeah.
So Python tries to be clean and says, oh, you use double quote then, right? And same thing if you say John said, I'm happy, then you want to use double quotes inside the sentence, then you can use double quotes. So by mixing these two, you can avoid confusion. But there is a different idea here as well. Of course, there's this notion of what's called an escape string. So you
So
can
I-
actually, sorry, yes.
Yeah, so in a single program, actually, we can use the different delimiters, right? Multiple
Yeah.
delimiters.
Yes, you can. I would, by design, I'm forcing, because in the old days when I started writing Python, I was always using double quote because some of my other languages were using double quotes.
Okay.
But eventually I came back to single quotes. So let's ask the question, if you have to choose, let's see how you guys choose. You can use double quotes or single quotes. Which one would you choose for a string? Which one would you choose? We have to choose one and stick to it. Which one would you choose? Why?
Double quote is a more safer, actually.
Okay. Well, safer, why?
Safer, because sometimes we get the data you said, I am, right? First name, last name, anything actually can be the single quote.
Sure. So that's one reason.
Program will be fail, actually, that time.
That is one reason. That's a good reason. Anyone else? Any reason to choose the single quote?
I mean, feel wise, I believe that single quote makes the feel look easy and clean, and double quote makes it a little heavy for me.
Heavier. Okay, so for those who are in the single quote camp, let me say, I actually have a practical reason. Double quote requires you to hit the shift key. Right? Single quote doesn't need the shift key. So it's one less finger activity. So anyway, this is a religious debate, right? There's no right answer here. But we should pick one convention and stick to it. And I must say, for example, for me, it's still a problem. Like in the old days, I used to write with double quote. At some point I said, no, this is my new convention. I'm going to use single quote everywhere. But sometimes old habit comes back, or I copy from somewhere and then I still have double quotes there. I have to remember to clean it up, etc. So that's why I'm saying almost from day one, if you pick a good convention and start there, it's better. Okay. Good question. Very good question. By the way, there is one more thing since we're talking about this. There is one more convention in Python for strings. You can use triple quote. Okay, so let me just show you this. So while I'm typing it, does anyone think of a reason why I would want triple quote? Any reason? Since I have double quote and single quote, do I need triple quote?
But it's not actually triple quote. It's a single quote actually using the before and after any value.
Yeah, but it's 3 single quotes. Yeah, that's why I'm calling it triple quote. Look at, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Like this, right? Python will take it as a string as well. But I'm asking a question, logical question, why would we need to have even such a concept? Right? I have single quote, I have double quote. Now why I want triple quote? Okay, and the answer is actually interesting. The answer is triple quote will allow me to create multi-line strings. Right? So if I have strings on multiple lines, triple quote will just say, okay, it can be multiple lines. Right? And if I try to print it out, I hope it'll actually print it out correctly, but see, it tries to put down 2 lines. So, okay, so you can ask the question, why do we need triple quotes? And the idea is sometimes you write these things called doc strings. I'll show you later. If you want to write a lot of comments, it is nice to write comments like this, right? With using a triple quote, because you can make a block of comment. Let me make this into a comment actually. You can make a block of comments like this, many lines. And then when you want to uncomment it, for example, you can just remove the quotes and then the whole thing becomes live. So if you want to remove multiple lines from a quote, this is a quick way to take lines out. Don't put hash mark on each line, just put triple quotes and the whole thing becomes a comment. For example, let me show you here. I have multiple lines of code. I want to take them out of execution. I can just put, by the way, Jupyter is a little annoying. It always tries to close the quote, so you have to be careful. But you see what happens here. This whole thing is not going to get executed anymore. The Python makes it into a string. Okay, so anyway, triple quote is multi-line string, but it's also a helpful trick to hide code from Python when you want to comment out blocks of code. Does that make sense? Actually, I'll ask, do you think it's useful? Yeah.
It's like the percentage sign in some languages, right, where you use multi-line comments.
Yes. Actually, usually I think in C# and other languages, even Java and C, I think it's /*. Sorry. slash star
Ah, yeah, slash
and
star.
star
Slash star. Yeah. Yeah.
something like this. Yeah, oops, maybe star slash, something like this. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
My fingers don't want to remember all this stuff. They're like, okay, I'm happy with Python right now. Okay, so I'm going to continue. Okay, so we got so everybody was able to do this quick program.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So, any questions while you were writing it?
Yeah, I had a question how to check between
Huh.
like we had this. Yeah.
So okay, so let me see. Somebody, anyone can tell me how to type the answer. I will type the answer. Tell me what I should do. Temperature. I said temperature is 56, and I have to do the Boolean condition. What should I type?
Like temperature greater than 55 and temperature less than 75.
Mm-hmm.
And
Like this, right?
yeah,
Okay, and it will return a.
Boolean.
Okay, and did it return the right Boolean? Is this the correct answer? Yes, because 56 is greater than 55
Yes, yes.
and less than 75, right? And if I put 52 here, it works the right way, right? It returns. Okay, so this is very nice. So what was the question now, Pallavi?
Okay. And I was just thinking, like between 55 and 75, if there was some word like instead of putting temperature twice. Sorry.
No, it's a good question, but there is a way, but it doesn't use the word between. So let me ask you guys: when you write this in math, suppose instead of temperature, let me call it temperature, but so imagine for a minute this was x. Okay, just x is 52. Suppose I want x to be between 0 and 100. How do you write this in mathematics?
0 less than x less than 100.
Yes, like this.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Uh-huh.
So now suppose I make x into temperature. You don't mind that, right? It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you think this is going to work or not?
I don't know.
Okay, so I should try it out then, right? And it works.
Oh wow. Okay.
Okay. So that's also cool, right? I mean, because you can actually combine what this is between basically, and this is a mathematical notation we use, and it will work perfectly fine. And you can use any comparison operator, like you can say less than equal to, and see my thing will make the less than equal to look very nice. Do you like this font?
Yeah.
My less than equals looks like a mathematical symbol. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys like fonts, you can tell me. I can show you sometime how to set it up. Little bit of work, but it's kind of cool. But really, the keystrokes I'm using is your keystrokes. That's why I highlighted this. Okay, I just type less than followed by equal to. So I'll put it inside a comment. Maybe even then it might take. I'll show you. Yeah, it always does this. So just try it. Can you do this, all of you? Make it work. Make it less than equals and see that it works.
Okay.
And also greater than equals. It's just the order is important. You must put the comparison of like the less than operator first and then equal to later. Okay, actually I have it on screen here. Here you can see my screen here. You must type it like this, right? You must type greater than equals and less than equals. Okay, and then I will just stress one more thing since we have this on screen. This equal to operator, I cannot stress how many times people make mistakes because they put a single equal to there. And single equal to is the source of a lot of bugs in this context, right? Equality is always double equals. And we can spend a lot of time later discussing what equality means for various different types. How do we actually compare? But we will continue in a minute. I mean, I say this profoundly, but I can ask. For example, if I have two lists and I ask, are they equal? What does it mean? What should it mean if I'm trying to compare two lists? Is it enough if the length is equal?
Elements also need to be same.
I know, but suppose the element inside the list is another list. So you see, it becomes more and more complex. We're going to talk about lists in a minute. Kiran, if you will remember this question, we'll test it out at that point, okay? And see what happens. But equality is not a simple thing, is what I'm saying. Because there are many kinds of ideas of equality, and you must be very careful. Okay, So now let's continue. So now next thing, right? We created this kind of conditions. Now we want to basically come to a very, very important part. We want to split the world into, I have a nice picture here, right? We want to split the world into multiple branches. I like this picture. The idea is that right now, until this moment, your code is running in a straight line, right? One step after another step after another step after another step. The moment I introduce this concept of an if condition, the world is going to split. And literally, it's going to split into two branches. And these two branches may, or it can be two or more branches. These branches all of them won't get visited. In fact, only one branch will get visited, right? That is the branch that satisfies the branch condition. So for example, here, if I put a condition, if it's true, it goes to the left. And if it's false, it goes to the right. So if this condition evaluates to true, then only the left branch will get executed, right? So branching is very important, and you can see why suddenly your code has become really complicated. Because till now, my code, so that's why I would tell people I don't like if statements. Because every time you use an if statement, your code has become complicated. So in fact, one way to check if code is complicated is just simply take your code file and see how many if statements are there. Okay, and since Sachin has, I don't know actually, I should ask this, who has done the most programming in this group? I don't know if it's a fair question. Lines of code, who has typed most lines of code?
Sachin would have done most.
Okay, so Sachin, I have to ask you this. Suppose I take your latest code base, whatever you're working on. And if I counted how many if statements are in your code base, what is the answer?
So like it was like more than 20. So in place of if, actually we are using a decode function actually.
Using what?
Decode function. There is a function decode. Multiple if condition. Actually, you can use a decode function.
Like a switch statement. Switch.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So which language has decode?
Like decode is in a ETL actually, the coding ETL part.
Okay. So so fine. Of course, yes. Okay. So let me ask, how many decodes are there in your code? If I count,
It's a single decode. Combination of multiple if conditions actually. So you can say it's more than 100 conditions actually. If conditions. So you use the like decode function actually.
I know, but in all your projects right now, how many times you use decode? Suppose I say, Sachin, you cannot use decode anymore. What happens? You feel like you lost one arm or what? Is it handicapped or no?
So it will be very difficult actually to write all the conditions. Yeah.
So that's the point of this discussion, right? This if statements have become bread and butter. Or if statement or decode statement, something like an if statement, is bread and butter for us, right? And programmers live in this space. The problem is that it's hard when I write a lot of if statements, it's very hard to think about everything that's going on. It becomes more and more nested and more complicated. So if I ask you, give me a simple, what is actually happening when you see, so later I will show you when we write long if statements like this, I say, read the code and tell me what's happening here. It takes a lot of time. Why does it take a lot of time? Because in your mind, you have to create this whole branch, right? You have to actually say, oh, it comes here, then checks if the file is present. If the file is not present, it goes here. Then it does something else. It tries to get it from there. Then if that is not there, it goes. So it's like a whole Ramayana is here in an if statement. And it's very hard to tell that story by just looking at the code. Now it makes your head hurt. It's even worse if it's in a UI tool, right? Why I don't like UI tool? Because then you click on this button, and then inside that one button, there's one location. Then inside that, there's one file, and it goes like this further and further, right? So anyway, so that's an important concept here for us. But right now, our goal is, okay, fine, we did all this discussion, but how do we actually write it? So in Python, actually, if is kind of neat. Python basically does if, then you put whatever condition you want. You don't even need this bracket. I will write some code in a second, just a template. But the important thing is there are no brackets in Python's if. There's just a colon at the end of the if statement. And then all the code in the if branch, it could be multiple lines of code. They all go into this, they all get written one below the other, but all of them have to line up. They have to be at the same level of indentation. So now we encounter, so let's write just an if statement. or I can just show you something. Well, okay, let's write an if statement somewhere here. So let's just write an if statement here, sorry. So you want to write an if statement. So we'll say if, so let's make a variable x, and then we can say if x greater than 2. So notice again why we are connected back to the Boolean world, right? The condition is a comparison condition. Whatever is given as the argument of the if statement is going to be a Boolean, right? Evaluates to a Boolean. If x greater than 2, print, let's say, print x, right? Otherwise, else, print. Let's print x. I have to make it an f string, I guess. So let me write the whole thing. X. Sorry, x is greater than. Let's set x to 5, for example. Then, if I want, I will just say print x is not greater than. Okay, I just typed some code here just to show you. Important thing: the colon is important, and then the indent is important, right? So when we run it, 5 is greater than 2. This makes a lot of sense, yeah. But the important thing is this has to be. So let me. It has to be one tab inwards, one tab indent. Okay. So and then if I have multiple lines, just to make it, if I have multiple lines, all the lines have to be correctly indented. Right? They have to basically line up. For example, here I pasted it and it's now shifted over by a little. Can you all see it? Can you see that it's shifted over? Oh, it's too small, the gap. Can you see a small gap here? Or maybe I can make it even bigger. Right? If I make like this, then Python is going to. And it's going to say error message is interesting. You will have a few of these error messages when you start. It'll say unexpected indent. Okay, so we must make sure that the code of all the lines of the if block must line up exactly. You can have multiple lines, but they must line up. Then after the if statement, I can have an else condition, and here again same thing. I can have multiple lines, right? So, and that's it. So that's Python's if. So let's stop and quickly discuss if statements. Do they look clean? Do they look easy? Compare it with your other languages. Do you like indent? Any comments? Sachin's like
They
giving
look quite similar.
Look quite similar. What is the main
So what
difference?
about multiple ifs? Is there any use of indentation for multiple ifs, or because this is simple if else?
Correct. So there are two ways we want to do multiple ifs now. So multiple ifs, one way is you can do multiple branches. Okay, and another one is I can do a nested if. That means inside this, if x is greater than 2, I can go and check. So suppose I want to do this. If now I want to put an if inside this and say if x is greater than 2, but if x is greater than 4, do something else, right? So I can nest it like this. Print, I'll just say x greater than 4, okay? And then I can put an else here. But every if doesn't require an else, by the way. But if I wanted, I could put an else here and do so. So first let's check without an else, see what happens. You see that x greater than 4 got printed inside. But notice the important thing is I can put an if inside an if, but the values of this one has to be one indent always relative to the if. Does that make sense? And I can do this as many times as I want, but it will keep on indenting more and more. Let me pause and Prakash, does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. So nested ifs, okay? But notice what I'm saying by nested ifs is when the first if condition is hit, the world splits into 2 branches. And when the second if condition is hit, this world splits into 2 branches. That's why I say it's nested, right? The top level, at every level, there's only 2 branches. But sometimes you might want to have multiple branches. So that will take us to the if else if. But I just wanted to show you guys a quick demo here. Let's see if you like this demo. So I'm just showing you this. Oops. Okay, I haven't set it up properly. Okay, let me come back. Yeah. Okay, Jupyter allows us to do some magical things. So let's see if magical things will work. Okay. So you see now I have inline here a way to visualize. It's like an external view of what's happening in Python. Right? So for example, here it's I can step through my code here, and it shows me. Notice here, you guys have to watch as I click. Every time I click the button, I'll make a comment. It has created what's called a global frame. This is the space in which the whole program is operating. And in that global frame, it has created one variable and given the value 5, right? So now I create another variable called limit, and it has set its value. I say variable. Everywhere I say variable, we should say identifier, right? It's basically, you can see here, X is like a label for the label for 5, or the value of X is 5. Limit is a label for 4, okay? Now we come to the if statement. And if you look at what Python is going to do, it's going to check, is X less than the limit? So what should be the outcome of this check? Is X less
Bool.
than? Yeah. And what is the actual value of that bool? Is it true or is it false?
False.
False. So if it's false, it's going to jump over this. By the way, this is the, sorry, I didn't mention this, but this is the multiple branch condition, right? Sorry, so let me just spend a second on it. So the multiple branch condition is saying if I want multiple branches, I use this new construction. It's called the elif. Notice there's no S here. It's not else if, it's elif. So in this case, there are 3 branches. So it's going to check for each condition. First, it's going to check if this is true. If it's true, it's just going to execute that branch. Otherwise, it's going to check if this is true. Otherwise, it's going to do this. So in this world now, there are 3 branches. But these branches are different than the nested if branches, right? Because here, the world has actually split into 3 here. It's not 2 branches, but there are 3 branches. So let me pause for a second. Is the distinction between multiple ifs and if elif clear?
Yes, it is clear.
I mean, you can go and play with this. If you don't want to use elif, there's a way to write it with multiple ifs. But I think it's more ugly. If this is what you need, you should just use it. Okay. So anyway, so there's a multiple branches here, but now notice Python is going to come here and it's going to check this. And as Pallavi just said, X is not X. This is false. So it's going to skip over that step. Now it's asking the question, is X equal to the limit? Well, it's not equal to the limit, right? So it's going to skip over that. And then it's going right to execute the else branch. And you get the output. Okay, so let me quickly pause. Is this kind of demo interesting or not?
Yeah.
Okay, does it help you see something more than just looking at the code?
Definitely. The whole looking at the identifiers, the values, how it goes through will really help in debugging
and also initially when we're learning, it's nice to see it spelled out for us. I mean, this is, by the way, this is what we keep in our head when we're working, right? It's very interesting. This is the picture I want to have all of us to have in our head when we're working. But now you can see why it's very complicated in our mind. If I have multiple if statements, can you imagine keeping all this in our head? And that's why it's very difficult for programmers. When they get interrupted, they lose this whole picture. Every time you get an interruption, you start again and build this complicated picture. So anyway, long story short, it's nice to keep our code simple if we can. Okay, so all of us have this exercise to do now. There in your notebook. So can you read is it here? Yeah, click first. So can you read it first? And then ask me a question, then we'll write the answers. Everybody read it. Tell me if the question is clear.
Yes. Is percentage used for mod?
Sorry, Kiran, you just broke up. Can you say that one more time? So actually,
Okay.
I'll ask.
My question was, how are we seeing these this global frame and something? Is there a setting on Jupyter Notebook?
No, it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Are we seeing this setting?
No, no, it's not a setting. It's a little more complicated, but I will show you
Are
at
you
some.
able to hear me?
Yeah,
Vijay?
you're breaking up a lot, but I can kind of make out what you're asking. You're asking me, is this thing a setting in the Jupyter?
Vijay, can you hear me?
Yes, you're breaking up a little, but I can hear you. Are you there? Okay, okay. Sorry, I wasn't watching text, but Kiran, you could type your question on chat as well, Kiran. I will watch chat. You guys can watch chat as well, okay? If there's anything I haven't answered. I just see that Pallavi's asked me this question about. Pallavi's asked this question about percent for mod, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, percent is for mod, correct. So,
Okay. Okay.
right? So if you want to say, does everybody know what mod is? Okay, maybe Pallavi can explain. What is mod?
Mod is the remainder of division function. So,
So give me an example.
like, so when you divide 14 by 5, the mod will be 4.
Okay,
Remainder.
so 14 by 5, the mod is not, well, no, I'm saying if you divide, you'll get, yeah. So actually it's interesting. I'll show you this. So it's called integer division, right? That means I want to divide by integer multiples of 5. 5 twos are 10. So integer division should give 2. Basically, there are only 2 integer parts of 5.
Mm.
And then the remainder is 4. So then we can do, I'll display both of them. 14% 5, right? And that should give us the remainder. So the integer part is 2 and the remainder is 4. Okay?
Okay.
Very useful mathematical thing, right? So anyway, percent is for mod, yes.
And printing on the same line possible with 2 print statements?
Okay, so yes, what was exactly, tell me what you want on the same line?
No, like the fizz and buzz are on the same line. I had if and elif for like 3 and 5. So I
Okay.
was trying to see.
Okay, no, so let me just tell you something about Python. Python actually allows us to put multiple, so okay, it's even cool, it's kind of clever. Suppose I say print and I give it 2 values, it will actually print it. And almost side by side. I don't know if this is what you want. So let's solve it both ways. So if you do like this and you put fizz and buzz here, I will accept that answer too, but let's see if that's what we want to happen. Right? So it gives fizz buzz like this, but there's a little space in between, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's okay. So how else could you do it?
I could write and in between, like both I mod 3 is equal to 0 and I mod 5 is equal to 0, then type fizz buzz.
No, I'm saying you can, before we do anything, you can join fizz buzz like this with a plus sign. That will also
Oh,
work.
yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay, so Pallavi got from me a nice hint how to write the answer. So now can everyone write the answer? But before you write the answer, is the question clear?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Kiran, I didn't see a response from you in chat, but I will type again. Okay, so who's finished it? I think Pallavi already had half an answer. Sachin saying, give me decode.
No, I'm actually working.
No, I'm saying, you're like, give me decode, I'll finish it in 1 second.
Yes.
What about Praveen? Are you making progress? Hey, Prakash, are you also typing? Okay, Praveen's
Yeah,
like,
few more minutes.
yeah, take your time. Yeah, I really want to push all of you to write code. Okay, it's too much lecturing is not good, I think. Who's finished? Sachin's done?
2 minutes.
2 minutes more, or you finished it in 2 minutes?
No, so like I need a 1 more minute actually.
Okay. Okay, so probably we have to go forward. So somebody talk to me. Tell me how you're doing. Is some problem there? What's going on? Nobody wants to volunteer. Everybody's heads down working. So I have to pick on someone. Okay. Kiran put something out there. So we will. Yeah.
Like something we need to declare a variable first and like declare all the value like in the multiples of 3 this then this and then this, and then we can use a range or something actually to print it out something.
Actually, Kiran posted something. So let me just pull it up and we'll talk about what he's written. Okay. So which is kind of the solution, but here we'll just put it here. Let me just format it correctly. Okay. So, and I will include what yeah, let me just get this right. Okay. Can everybody see what I'm typing? Okay.
Yeah.
So, Kiran, I'm assuming this is what you wanted to share, yes? And what I think what Sachin just said is instead of putting 21 here, I can declare a variable, right? So I can say some upper limit or something, whatever I want to call it. So that is a good programming style. If you're going to use some strange numbers, you might as well give them a name, and then use the name inside your range. Yeah.
Also, PG for I've written for in which is for I in actually.
We have to put range also, right?
Yes, I see
The
that
first statement
for I in, and this has to be range. Yeah, correct. Pallavi got that
Range.
part. Yeah. Okay.
range.
Yeah. Does it look good? Does it look good now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, first, before I run anything and we go further, let me just explain this. This question, at one point, somebody took this question and gave, huh?
PG, the last statement is also wrong, like else
Yeah,
and then colon and then print.
Yeah, I got it, right? So, so I'm saying somebody took this question and gave it to a bunch of programmers and then tried to see how many people get it right. And they found that a huge number of programmers, 5 years, 10 years experience, still make mistakes in code. Right? So it's interesting. But anyway, so what do we have? We have something. So I think it looks more or less correct. 15 is FizzBuzz, right? Okay, so what was the important idea here? Important idea was first iteration. You need some kind of for loop. Second idea was that you have some if conditions, but the if condition starts with the most restrictive one first. This ordering of if conditions is very important, right? At least if you can play with this and see if you put this in a different order, it'll break your code. And you should spend a minute just playing with that and understanding it, right? But the deep idea is that the ordering is very important. Okay, the order in which the thing is evaluated. So just think about that because I don't know if I can say much more in words. But let me pause. Was this a fun thing to write? Interesting? Not interesting? Some comment? Anyone?
It was really interesting because we did multiple things in just one.
Yes.
Like we got to try out iteration and branching
Yes.
and some mathematical and Boolean functions.
Yes. Yes. And so, and I'm saying at the end of the day, that's what makes this kind of interesting, right? It's kind of some few ideas all put together and it's a little compact piece of code. It's not very big, right? So when you stare at it, it's kind of neat, nice and clean. Okay, so we won't spend more time on this. Let's just go now to the next idea here. So we have for loops. So since I have programmers, I'm going to ask this question, but let's ask this question. There is another kind of loop called a while loop. So why do we have while loops? We have for loops. Why do we need while loops?
It combines for and if in one go.
For and if in one go. Yes, it's kind of true. But is that a nice thing to combine for and if?
Do while.
So this I just repeat to all of you, okay? It's very important idea, abstract idea here. Whenever we can do something in more than one way, we must always stop and say, why do we have two ways? Right? We must really ask the question to understand why there are two methods of doing this. And then the second question then is, which one am I going to use? Just as we saw with strings, there are single quote and double quote. Why are there two ways? Then we ask the question, we get an interesting answer. Then we choose a strategy. We're going to always use this method or that method. So now I'm asking the same question here. Why do we have two ways of doing loops? Just to give a headache to programmers, or just to give extra question opportunities to teachers? What is the reason for two constructs? Anyone?
Nobody else is answering. EG, I'll answer.
Okay. Yeah, go on, Kiran.
Okay. So it is basically a dynamic stopping condition. When the stopping condition is not known, but it is known that there is a stopping condition.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one, right? Like as Kiran said, when it's dynamic, when you don't know exactly how many times the loop must run, but we know that it will stop under some condition. I don't know whether it's 20 iterations or 100 iterations. When some condition is met, then I will stop, right? So it's very hard to write this. For example, if it's a simple condition like this, which I'm showing in this example here, while I is less than 5, right? I'm using a while loop here. So let's just look at exactly how the while is constructed. So you write a while, you put a Boolean condition in the brackets, and then you can do whatever you want inside the loop. Notice just like the if loop, it's got a colon and indentation, right? And this colon indentation is a Python style. So anyway, but if you can do this, in this case, we could have written this with a for loop very easily, because we know that there are only going to be 5 iterations of this loop. And in fact, a for is better in that case, for sure. Why is a for better? Can anyone say why? So for example, let me write, while I'm typing this, can anyone tell me why a for would be better? Why is this for better?
Because it automatically does the I plus 1.
Yes.
You don't have to write a separate
Yes,
statement.
and this I plus 1 is a source of major bugs, right? In particular, if you forget this I plus 1, you will get, as Kiran says, you will get ln star. Right? You'll get stuck.
Infinite.
Your program will crash eventually, right? So it's a very severe bug in while loops that are easy to make, right? So clearly for is better. And also when reading the code, it's easier to understand, right? For example, if you read while I less than 5, here I could have written I plus equals 2, right? So I could have gone in steps of 2. So when you read a big while loop, it's hard to figure out exactly how the loop construct is working. It's mixed in with my code. Whereas here, at least from the range, I know that if I put 1, 5, 2, it's pretty clear what the range is and how the steps are, and everything is very clear here. A little bit more complicated here. So I would say to you, if you have situations where the iteration count is very clear, then if the iteration count is very clear, then always use a for loop, right? But if the condition is required, so exactly, we're going to write this in the next program. So why don't we write the next program? But before you write this program, can we think about it and ask you, I think you might need some help computing average of scores. So you have to basically get input from a user. It's going to give you some values, 10, 15, 90, 100, whatever. And you're going to compute an average of the values entered by the user. So how would we write this code? You know what, instead of making your life difficult, shall I write it or you guys are going to write it?
We would like to try it first.
Okay. What did Kiran say?
Vijay, I think, yeah. I said either you write it or you give it as an assignment. We'll finish it and then let's move on to the next one. If it is possible to move to the next.
Yeah. So do that. Do it as an assignment, okay? But I will just highlight one thing.
Just one quick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
How to accept multiple values from users, like array of values or something?
No, just keep on looping and get one by one the values.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, makes sense. But now I will give an important question. I was
Okay, Pallavi, the biggest hint is, I think, use a while loop.
Yes, correct. That is true. You can use a while loop, but there's an important question also that must be asked. User is entering numbers, right? 199, 55. Then how does the user tell you I'm going to stop? You have to distinguish the numbers from the stopping condition. Okay.
It has to be an instruction to the user.
Yes. So you have to ask them for a different kind of input, right? You have to ask them enter a number. Somewhere else you have to ask them a question, do you want to stop? And then you have to also solve the question, what character is the user going to enter to say stop? Then you have to ask the question, how am I going to check it, etc. Okay. So anyway, try it out. It's a little bit tricky, but it's not hard. It's not hard. It's tricky more than it's hard. Okay. So anyway, the point which is summarized here is that the while loop is a very powerful pattern, right? It allows us to keep on repeating something. Like in this example, if you keep on repeating an activity, I don't know how many numbers the user is going to enter. So it's very hard to do this with a for loop, because is the user going to enter 5 numbers or 100 numbers? I could write a for loop for 100 numbers. And then after I finish 100, I can start the for loop again and so on. You can always write it with a for loop, but code becomes much more complicated. So just for the beginning part, whenever you use a while loop, try to rewrite it with a for loop and see which one is better, okay? And try to understand the differences. I think that's a helpful exercise. But anyway, so while loops are fun. So now let me just ask this question. So write a program to compute the square root of a number. Quick question. We won't write the solution. This is for homework. What is the logic needed here? So actually I have to ask, how do they teach you to compute square roots in school? By the way, these are integer square roots, okay? So I'm only going to ask you square root of 25 and square root of 64 and so on. Later we can extend this program to compute square root of 2, but we won't go there right now. So how will you compute integer square roots? What do they teach you in school? Or they skip square root in school?
No, they didn't.
They didn't teach you how to do square roots, or they didn't teach you
I've forgotten.
What did they tell you to do? Kiran.
Square.
Yes,
How do you compute square roots in school?
they didn't teach us, teacher.
Okay, homework assignment for all of you. Go find a CBSE textbook and look in there what they teach square roots, okay? They actually have a whole gyan is there. Very cool piece of work is there. I'm going to say it's 9th grade or 10th grade textbook. By the way, does everybody know the CBSE math textbooks available online for free in PDF? No,
Yeah, Vijay, I
okay.
know that. CBSE maths, CBSE, any books are available online.
Okay, so by the way, you should go and download them. But how many of you have actually, because it's available, downloaded and read all of them again? Pallavi is laughing.
No way. I'll do it only when my son's there again.
Okay, I have to say that when I traveled to India, I bought all of those textbooks one day, recently, in the last few years. And I did sit, usually when I come back from India, I'm jet lagged. So I'm staying up late or getting up early. So I actually sat and read all the books, all of those 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, whatever books. So yeah, it's a good exercise. I recommend. And if you get stuck somewhere, you can come and ask, okay? We can have a discussion. But I want to stress this. The idea is, think about designing a program to do this. Okay, and then we can discuss this next time. Please do it. I've given it as a homework. So actually, this may be a moment before I go forward. How about, okay, let me do functions and then I'm going to switch gears for a minute. Okay, so right now we have been using functions so far. We used print and input, at least 2 functions. Then we use all these other kind of, they're not exactly looking like functions, but they're also functions, and, or, not, etc. But now we want to actually create our own functions. So actually Python, the idea to create a function is actually very easy. You just def, so this is very important. You have to def something. So you tell Python, I'm going to define a function. Then you choose any name you want for the function. Oops. Choose any name you want for the function. Sorry. Choose any name you want for the function. Then you give as many parameters as you want. Then the same pattern we saw by now, this is becoming a standard pattern. Wherever you use a bracket in C, you put a colon, you indent everything. And then functions don't have to return it, but if you want to return something, you can return. And that's basically the idea. Okay. So let's just.
No need to define what is returning.
No need to define, correct. So let's make a simple function. I'll make a function that doubles a number, right? So let's call it double. It takes a number n and it returns 2 times n, right? So if I want to check it out, I can just say double 3. Okay, and it gives me back 6. So let's take a moment to just enjoy this beautiful thing. This is a function construction in Python. You use def. I use the name. I gave a parameter, and I return what I want to return. Okay. If I don't want to write the function at all, I just want to remind myself that I want to write a function, I can say this. I can say pass. Sometimes if I want to just write out all the functions but not implement them, I can just not have an implementation. But if I put pass here, then of course this doesn't return anything. Make sense? So, is there any question here?
So there are some reserved keys, something like, can we use that, like input?
Say that again. Say that again one more time. What's the question about input?
So let's say input we have, right? We take input. Is it? I mean, it's already.
So you're saying if you do this, what happens?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, what happened is I ruined my whole Python session. So we have to be a little bit careful here, because now when I go to next cell and I say input, right? It's just going to use this function. I will not be able to get back to input easily. You see what happened? Python just basically, so this is a problem in Python. Problem with functions, right? If I reassign the function to some other value, then that original function is pretty much gone from the session, right?
Then what is the solution?
Restart.
Is it only the problem with this particular Jupyter, or like anywhere you do this?
Yes. Yes. So this is a bad problem.
What happens?
It's a bad problem, right? So what we usually do for this is we'll discuss this in detail. Okay. So to solve this problem in a good way, I have to introduce the concept of namespaces. Okay, and then we use namespaces and we write functions in different namespaces and we don't mix them. Then we do this in angle slightly advanced. So we'll talk about this next time. Okay, when I start bringing functions, you can imagine if there are hundreds of libraries that we're going to work with, and all of them have some names for function. Then every time you write a function, you have to worry, right? Like I'm going to write this function called SQR, and you have to worry, does Python have a SQR? Okay, so let's do this. Let me do it right now. Why do I leave it for later? So let me just see if this works. Oops. Sorry, this is double. Okay, so for example, oh, sorry. So this is, what happened now? Okay. So we got this function. So let me just show you another example here. So for example, there is a math library. So I want to bring in the math library. So I say import math and then say import math as M. Okay, this is very useful to you. If you do this, it will import a whole library into my Python session. Now I can use all the functions in math library. In particular, I can do M dot and hit tab and it shows me all the functions. For those who like mathematics, this is kind of cool. You get lots of cool functions, right? So here I can say m.py, for example, and it gives me the value of pi, right? But now if I want to define pi myself, I could just say pi equals 3.1, right? And now let's print out both and see what happens. So this will be m dot pi, and this will be my pi. And you see they both exist. But one is sitting under the namespace of m, right? It's kept separate. It's sitting under the namespace of m. And this is sitting in the global frame, right? And they don't interfere with each other. So this is how we manage this in Python, right? We don't bring everything into the global space. I could have actually just import math like this. Then we bring everything into the global space, and now I have to worry about all these clashes. Okay, so this is a slightly advanced concept, but it's really important, at least in the beginning. Okay. Did that kind of answer Prakash's question?
What
Yeah. It does.
Yeah. Sorry,
can I
Paul.
do? Can I do m dot pi is equal to 3.14?
Yes, you can. And then what happens? What do you expect, Pallavi?
Error, please.
No, it was why Python is very kind. It thinks Python is like, it thinks you're the boss. It's just going to do whatever you do. So
Oh
this is
God.
it's a very kind language.
Scary. It's very scary. I'm overwriting pi.
It's very kind, but you should know what you're doing then.
Yes, exactly. It's kind, but you should know what you're doing. You can hurt yourself, right? Yeah. So, but I think the point is that's why I'm definitely showing you now, and you should ask these questions. We should have this conversation. This is how we keep our code clean, right? Because we don't put everything in the namespace and we don't assign. When I go to write this thing, when I go to do what Pallavi was suggesting, immediately something inside my mind goes off and says, that's in the M namespace. Why am I writing in the M namespace? It's not my business, right? Then I will not write this line of code. You see what I mean? That has to happen in our minds. We got to keep our namespaces clear. We shouldn't be writing into somebody else's namespace. Unless my intention is to write into somebody else's namespace. And of course, yeah, I can do this. Make sense? I have to check if there's a better way to unclear this, but I don't think. I have only been restarting, so I have to go and check this again. Okay, quickly, just a visualization of functions, because functions are a very useful thing for us, right? So actually, I have to ask this: Sachin, Kiran, those who are writing code, functions, how much do you use them, or you just use things like decode that are already built for you?
We use a user-defined function also. We build the function.
Okay, how many functions have you written?
So recently the ETL, if I talk about, so like at least I have written a 10 function like in the current module actually.
Okay. So yeah, it's interesting. So the functions are very interesting, right? Okay, so let me ask now. Sachin said he wrote 10 functions. How many lines of code in each function?
Just 5 or 6 lines.
Okay, so that is kind of idea, right? You don't.
Basically, I made a function using an existing function actually.
Yes. So this idea of managing your functions becomes very important. Okay. So let's just quickly look at something here. I want one more idea to come across, hopefully. I'm just showing you what's happening in Python when you use functions. So for example, I have defined this variable x. Notice how x is sitting in a global frame, right? Now I've created a function. This function's job is to add a constant value to x. So it's going to add the number 2 to the value x. So if I go here, you see Python has now taken, so when this is evaluated, this whole thing is evaluated by Python. It says, now I know what is the meaning of this function. I know the signature, I know it takes 2 parameters, blah, 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 right? And that's what this arrow is showing. It has now understood the definition. We have defined this function, but it is not getting executed. This line, the next line, line 8 here, is the reason is going to cause execution to happen. So when you run this, it actually goes back to the function. See, it's calling the function here. You can see below. It's actually calling the function. So the first step was defining the function. Now it's calling the function, and it's passing the value x equals 3 to the function. So the function now has a local variable. Do you see this? Inside the function, there's another x. This is very important, delicate concept, but very important. Inside the local frame of the function, there is another x. It so happens that the global X and the local X have the same value. But now let us modify that value and see what happens. So now we have a constant here. This constant value is 2. And now we're going to add 2 to X. So X got modified. So you see locally X is 5, right? X is 5, but globally X is 3, right? So this is very interesting. As Python programmers and as programmers in any language, we must always have this difference between global variables and local variables. And the idea is that if you, okay, so let's just finish off this code. So it will now return what? It will return the value 5. 5 comes back and gets printed out. Okay? So the value that comes back, the initial value, you can see. Okay? But what I want to say is, the way you should think about this is, all the variables that are sitting out here, they are global variables. All the variables that are sitting inside here, they are local variables. What we do not want is that we should, so let me change this now. Instead of calling this X equals 3, let me call this A equals 3, right? What we do not want is inside here, we don't want to do A equals A plus 1. You do not want to modify global variables from inside a function. A lot of people do it. There is a way to do it. It's a programmer's cheating way of solving problems, is by global variables. But I don't even want to show you how to do it. So if, as we are writing, going through this code, if you ever need to modify a global variable, come and ask me. I may show it to you. But for now, pretend you cannot modify global variable. Okay? And then let's see what happens. Is this again a delicate point? But is it clear what I'm trying to say? Okay. Was this demo helpful to understand global and local?
Yes.
Okay. So we are in great shape now. So let me just switch gears and show you something very powerful. Okay. So can we all go to our course webpage quickly? And let me walk you through. In course webpage, if you go to the section 1.4, inside it there's a thing called Programming Lab. Okay. Can you get there? Is everybody there?
Yeah, just a second.
Not yet.
Yeah, it takes a second to load. Just be patient. Yeah. So who is not yet there?
Yes.
Huh?
I'm not yet there.
Okay. Anyone else who's not there?
Me.
Okay. Take your time. Don't worry. Don't keep hitting reload. Okay. Each time you hit reload,
Pallavi.
yeah, just be patient. For those who are in there, this is a thing that I want to use for the course for us to submit assignments. If you can, you don't have to do it right now, but later, you can click on this sign in and just create a login. Just use an email and create your own password. If you want, you can take a minute right now and just do it.
I'm in.
Okay, good. Okay, everybody's in. So just go in there, go in and create a password if you need. Okay. Sorry. So is everybody able to actually click on one of the files here? Click on anyone. Click on the main.py file. Is everybody able to click on this?
Maybe you can take it at the end of the session. I wanted to understand how to save a file in Jupyter Notebook. notebook,
Yeah. Okay. So the idea. Okay. Let me just.
and how to kind of re-access it.
Yeah.
So
just.
when I do it from my,
Yeah. Let me try to answer quickly, Kiran. You just hit. It's actually auto saved. Okay. So you shouldn't have to save. But if you really want to save, you just hit this button here, and it'll save it, and it'll say checkpoint created. You see on top here. Every time I hit save, it'll say checkpoint created and tell me when the checkpoint was created.
yep. So how do I go back and check it? From which one? From the file menu?
You mean to get back to this file after you've saved it? If you closed it and came back, when you come back,
Yes.
when you come back in, you'll see something like this, right? Then you should
Yeah.
just double click on this.
Okay.
Did you get it? Does anybody else have problem with saving and saving? Sachin, you okay? What about Prakash?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Pallavi, you okay?
Created
So Vijay, can we
login.
create multiple files? Can we create multiple?
Of course, yes. I'll show you how to create multiple files in a second. But Prakash, what did you say?
So I'm in that page and I've created it, asking me to create new projects, right? Do I need to create new projects there?
In which page are you, Prakash? Oh,
Programming labs.
Session 1.
Yeah. Okay. So no. So I'm saying if you logged in, don't have to create anything. Just come back to this page. Come back to the course page, this page. While everyone's getting back to this page, I'll just answer Kiran's question. Kiran, when you're on this page, you just say new, and then you get to just choose Python 3.6. So Python 3.6, and it'll make a new notebook blank for you, right? And then you could give some name here. You can type some name.
Okay, great.
One, right? So let me just do that quickly. If I do test one and rename it or whatever, test one, and then if I go back to this page, you should see this test one is here, right? You see it here?
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. So if anyone needs more
Yep.
note, yeah, you can create it.
Will it also allow me to see Sachin's and Pallavi's notebook?
No, it won't allow you to see it. But what can be done is you can actually share it. Now I have to remember where is the sharing option. Yeah, from here, see if Sachin and Pallavi will have something like this. So for example, if I reload this, it will actually show up the extra file as well. You see this test.ipynb? So here you can go and they can click here and say, copy link and share this link. Yeah?
Okay.
So it's not a live sharing thing, but anytime you want to share, you can just copy this link and say, hey, I have some code, please look at it and you can share.
Okay.
Is that work?
Yes.
And once you've shared the link, I think they can always come back and reclone it. You can always say, I made some changes, go and just get a new update.
Okay.
Okay, so back to work here. So everybody's on this page with me. Okay, so let me see. On this view thing, I can say change editor setting, and I can actually make it a little bigger. I don't know, 14 point, try. And you have all kinds of theme things. You can make it dark theme and all this. And then you just say apply settings, and it will make it bigger or whatever you want. Okay. Now, this is where we're going to do our assignment. So let me show you how to use this environment. So this environment is similar to Jupyter, but it's more familiar to people who use standard coding environments. There's a bunch of files, and we want to execute them. Okay. So right now, let's start in the simplest place. This is my main. So here I can use the triple quotes just to show you. I have a main function. The first thing we want to do is make sure we can execute something. So let's just say print hello. So if I want to run this now, all I have to do is click the run button. Okay, and I hope everyone can see it has worked. Can you take a second and make sure that you can run a hello world like this? Are we good? Sachin's good. What about Pallavi? You good?
No.
Any problems or just?
Sorry, I'm not able to see. I'm not able to see what you're seeing on my 1.4 page. What did I miss?
Yes.
I kind of created first project or something. Is that what I was supposed to do?
No,
You
no.
need to go and reopen it, I guess. I reopened
Oh,
it, so
it took you to another page. No. Just come back to the course website, Pallavi. Just close off the other thing and just come back here. I'm sorry. Just come back to our course website, section 1.4.
In the Vijay, like I can see like there was an option to like login, sign in option in the code page. So
Yes.
what was
So when you sign in, you can actually save all this stuff. If you don't sign in, you can just execute it, and then when you go away, it'll just not keep a copy for you. Does that make sense? So I think everybody should create a sign in. Then each time, and it'll remember. First time only you have to sign in. After you sign in once, it'll remember every time.
okay.
But now you have, just like Jupyter's in the cloud, this is another cloud hosted Python session, but here it has a different interface. I'll explain why I'm using this interface in a second, okay? So anyway, it's like a standard code editor, but it's a very unfriendly editor. Jupyter's auto-saving your code. This guy doesn't auto-save your code. So if you type anything and you hit reload or something, or your session crashes, you will lose your code. So please, if you're working on this, periodically just go to project and save changes, okay? If you hit save changes, it will save your changes. Okay, but now let me proceed here. So is Pallavi here with me now?
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay, is anyone stuck without getting here? Or?
Yeah, I'm fine. I could get this.
Okay, so everybody could run this. Now let me explain where I'm going with this. So the first idea here is when we want to, so let me just say, for example, there's this problem for counting. And I will give you a simple function stub here, right? I've given you a problem and I say convert numbers to finger or whatever. I've given you a function. You have to implement this function. I've just put a pass here. Okay, so your job is to write your code here and make sure that it's working. We'll talk about how do we make sure code is working. Now, to test this function, let me just start here by saying we will return, I don't know, return 42, okay, from this function, okay? So how can I run this function? So now we just learned how to create functions. Now I'm showing you exactly how to run this function. So main.py is a different file. Remember in Jupyter, we are just working with one file. Now we're working with multiple files. So what we do here is you go and you say import counting as C. Do you see this? I'll put it below separately so you can see it. Import counting as C. You have to import a file. The file name is called counting.py, but you just have to say import counting. Okay? You say import counting as C. And now I can access the function by saying C dot something. So let me say print C dot, C dot. And what was the function called? Convert number to finger, whatever. Let me just copy this. So you can do this and just, it has a parameter. So I have to give some number here, but it doesn't matter. And now I can run this code. Right? And it gave the number 42 that I created. So let me just pause and say, is this workflow clear? When we want to use this, we go to corresponding file, implement the function that we want to implement. Right? So let me make a more useful function. That's what we did in the class. Let's define this function called square, square n, and then I can just say return n star star 2. Right? So I've written a little function here. Now I can, in order to run this function, I go back to main, for example, and then I say print. Then I have to say c.sqr, okay? Because I've imported it as C. And then the square of 5 is 25, let's say. If I want to do, I can do this. And it works. So is this workflow clear? Talk to me. Is it easy, hard, confusing, anything?
So every time I need to come to this main, this and execute my code.
Say that again. Every time you have to?
Yes.
If I'm writing some function, I can execute only in the main function. That's
You
what
can execute only in the main function. You can do another trick here. I don't know if this is helpful, but I'll just show you anyway for now. I can take this out of main, and then in counting.py, I can put a kind of thing here. I can def a function called run. Take no parameters. Sorry. Takes no parameters. I can def a function called run. And here I can put everything that I want to execute related to this file. Does it make sense? I put it like this. But now this won't run. So in order to make it run, I will just go here and say c.run. Does that make sense? Then you can run it. Oops, C is not defined. Okay, what happened here? I must have made some mistake here. Yeah, C inside here I don't see anymore. Okay. So here I don't need C anymore because it's locally defined. So now if I do run, it should be okay. Yeah. So is this helpful?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's still not as much fun as Jupyter. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you go here and there. Yeah. So that's why slowly you're starting to see why Jupyter is fun for us. It's cool for us, right? I mean, you put everything, you can see it at the same time. And here, if I want to write some comments, I can only write comments that look like this. I can write all those formatted comments and okay. Any other questions about this? And I'm going to introduce a new concept quickly. But is this clear? Are you able to write functions and run them and everything?
Yes.
Okay. So now $1 million question. When I write a function called SQR or some other function, how will I test it? So I'm giving you a rapid introduction. Sorry, I've actually used a little extra time, but I will just start this. We can keep discussing this next time. Okay? So the idea here is that if you want to test something, you basically, what is the simplest way? So let me just comment out everything here. I will just comment out. All of you can just see this quickly. Is it okay if I take another 5 more minutes? Are you guys getting restless?
Yes. Yes.
No. It's okay.
Okay. So here I'm just saying you start here like this. This is unfortunate for now. You just have to copy paste this, okay? This is, just think of it like a requirement. But once you copy pasted this, inside this you create functions. You can call this function anything you want. So I could call it test1, okay? Now, let me ask the $1 million question. How will I test, for example, that function SQR? If I want to make sure it's correct, how will I test it?
So you define the variable that you want to pass as parameter.
Yeah.
You already know it's a square.
Yeah.
So you run that and get the output and check whether output is same as the number that you already defined.
Yes. So first of all, let me start with the simplest thing, okay, just to show you. So basically, I'm saying to you, all tests that we do is comparing two values. So for example, here I can just say is 2 is equal to 2, right? This test should succeed. So let's just start here, okay? Right now I'm not written an interesting test, but first let's make sure everything is working properly. So there's a button here for test. You click this button, it should run. And it says one test run and I passed it because 2 is equal to 2, right? But for example, if I have 2 equals 3, then it should fail. And it should run my test and it should say 2 is not equal to 3. Do you see it? Okay. So, okay, but that's not very clever. So what is it? Why do I have...
What is self?
So this is can you take it for today? This is part of Python's object-oriented programming technology. So at some point when I talk about self is a pointer to, okay, you guys, some of you know C. Self is a pointer to this structure. This class is a pointer to the class. Okay, but I didn't talk about classes. So just take this first part. Every time you write a new function here, you must always you can call it whatever you want. Test2, the parameter is still self. If you want, and then and then you can write whatever you want inside it. Okay. So now let's do the same thing again. And when you write any assert statements inside this function, you have to do self dot something. So self dot assert. Now let's see. If I call c dot sqr and pass in the value 25, what is the test it should do to pass? Sorry, pass in the value 5. What is the right hand side value should do?
25.
25. So if I put in 25 and run this test, let's see what happens. So it says running 2 tests. One of them failed. Do you see? One of them failed.
First one failed and the second one passed.
First one failed and second one. So actually in 2 minutes, I have introduced you to the magical and beautiful world of testing. Right? Basically, the idea is that when you write code, as soon as you write SQR function, you should create a little test like this. Right? And then you can write as many tests in here as you like, preferably 1 or 2. 1 is better than 2. Just less number of tests in each function is good because then you'll get granular reporting. But you could test all kinds of conditions if you want. For example, you could ask, will it work for negative numbers? Right? So you could write a test with -5 in here. Right? And this should also be 25. So if you want to test it now, you can just test. Right? And the beautiful thing about this, so let's make other tests pass as well. So when all my tests are passed, if you run this here now, it says all the tests are passed. Right? So it is nice thing to do to come to your test file and write the test that you need to pass. Does that make sense? So let me pause for a second. Any questions about testing? Are you all testing experts right now? So what have I done? I've actually cheated. I've said all of testing is left hand side equal to right hand side. If left hand side is equal to right hand side, testing chapter is over. Am I guilty of oversimplifying something, or is that all there is to the story? Did I cheat you guys, or I am telling something very profound?
Yeah, it's correct.
Yeah. So okay. So but
This is profound. This is profound, Vijay, because you know multiple use cases or multiple test cases can be written.
Yes. Yeah. But
on this, while you have actually used, or we have actually done a sample testing here.
Yes.
But we could go.
Kiran just faded out. But is it just me, or can you guys hear Kiran?
No, she
Yeah, she's
faded
breaking
out
up.
for
We are not able to hear her.
So what's happening?
Okay.
Is it just yeah?
Actually, I think I'm experiencing some lag. When I
Yeah.
say something, you respond after a little while, which means that there is some lag.
Or it means that or it means that Vijay is very slow in processing. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, it's probably.
And Vijay, I'm also facing connection problems. So
Okay.
network issues.
What is
Are there.
what is the Hindi word? I think one friend of mine was saying he calls it Tibri Batti. Is that a correct usage? If something is someone is very
tube light.
yeah. Okay.
Tube light.
Okay. So anyway, yeah, Kiran, we should see if you can check your connection. Okay, make it easier for you. But anyway, so I'm saying this is very important and useful. Okay. But now what I want to say is I'm going to walk over some exercises briefly. But then when you in this thing, the last value is, so when I give you so now let me come back to what I have actually set up for you. When I give you any exercises, I try to give you, actually I've written my own test, right? So that when you write code, you should try to pass these tests. Make sense? I've written,
Okay.
suppose I give you a problem to solve, then I'm saying, can you pass all my tests? So you should read the tests also. You should understand what I'm testing for and get into this practice. It is not easy to write good tests. This is why I question sometimes people, they have entire teams in Mindtree for testing, right? So once in a while when I meet these teams, I say like, what do you do, guys? And they try to tell me something, right? And then I ask them, okay, I have some function, how will you test it? And we get in some interesting conversations. But anyway, the point is we must understand these tests also. So let me show you now. And then the last thing, let me mention, after you finish, you should run the test and see how many tests you pass. And then once you pass all the tests, then you can submit your code. Okay. So for example, here, this is what it will look like when you have right now what you have. So you go to each file, implement something, what is needed in the file. Oh, now what is needed? So let's do the first, let's read the first question. Can you take a minute to read this question number 1? Right up to here. This
Yeah, read it. Yeah.
Okay. And what, Pallavi, is the answer clear to you?
Yeah, like answer in the sense, are you talking about the code or what should be the answer?
Both. What is the actual answer and what should be the code?
Okay, no, I've yet to do that. I understood the concept, but I have not.
Okay, just gently read it. But is the question clear? What about the others? Praveen and Kiran might have seen this before because I've used it in my last class. What about Sachin or Prakash? Have you been able to read it?
Yes.
And is the question clear at least? What is asked?
Yeah, question is clear.
Yeah, a lot of words, but the question is simple, but a lot of words to tell the thing. So now, okay, do you think you can implement this? And you don't have to do it now, but you have some strategy, or you need help.
We'll try at our end, and like if we'll have any issue, then we'll discuss in next class.
We'll discuss next time. So, but what I'm saying is, after when you try this, so let me say what I'm saying. When you're trying, so you have to implement that in this file, okay? So let me delete all the extra stuff I create. I'll leave it like this for now. Yeah. In this file, here is the function that you need to implement. Right? Whatever. Here is the function that you need to implement. You write your code here. Then if you run the test, it will tell you whether you pass the test or not. Okay, right now you will fail the test, but if you run this, it will tell you whether you passed or not. So you write the code. Once you pass the test, if you hit submit, don't do this often, but when you're finished with all the things, if you hit submit, it will send it back to our course website and you will get a grade here. Okay, it says 1 point possible, but 1 is 100%. Okay. So if you get all the questions correct, you'll get 1 out of 1, which is 100 out of 100. Okay. If you get half correct, you'll get 50 out of 100. Whatever. And to see this grade update, you have to hit submit and then hit reload. Then only this number will refresh. But when you hit reload, you can lose your code. So please, what I would prescribe is write the test, write the code, test it, hit save, then hit submit and hit reload, and you'll get your grade here. And I've set it up so that you can actually submit multiple times. Sometimes it's good. First I got 25, then I got 50, then I got 75. It's good to see some positive feedback. So I've set it up so you can submit multiple times. Okay. But don't get in the habit of submitting every 3 minutes. I don't think it's needed because you have all the tests here. You can check if you're doing well. If you pass all the tests, you're going to get 100%. Make sense? So why don't all of you now? I will wind up the class for today. I will take some questions, of course. But is this a good place? I have given you some questions here. They're a little bit more complicated than the class, but not that far. But it gives you this last question on statistics. You can wait on it. We can do it next session, okay? So let me just switch, but let me pause first and say, what do you think? Is this a good infrastructure that you will use, or it's too hard, or what?
Well, this is nice.
Okay, good. Better than having
especially if you have done all the setup for us.
Yeah.
If I had to write the main and everything, that would have been very tough.
Yes.
Even the test cases.
Yes. So I've given you a lot of boilerplate code, right? So you just had to fill in the blanks in various places. I've even written the test for you because first few times I know it's hard to write the test. But at least your job is to read my test and say you understand it. If you don't understand, come back and ask me a question. Okay? And then you're pretty much ready. I mean, if you finish this assignment, you're in a great starting point as Python programmer. You know how to write functions, you know how to implement logic, you can write testing. It's a great place. But of course, you also see why I'm a little rushed, right? In a couple of sessions to get you this far is hard. So I'm trying my best to get you there. Okay.
So one question.
Yes, of course.
So we have to submit these two, right? First two questions, counting and the square root, right?
Yes.
And you initially you said you showed the way to run in the main page, main.py file.
Correct. Correct.
So since we will be using the test function, so
Yes.
we can also, I mean, is that an alternative way of testing it? That's what you mean to say, or?
No, this main is actually an old and bad habit for all of us, right? Because this is a way of testing using print statements, right?
Okay.
But it's, why is it bad? Because a human being has to read the print statement to decide if it's working or not, right? So that is not a good thing. Whereas this is automated. You see what can happen. What happens in a real, like if we are all real Python programmers, basically all of us work on a code. At the end of the day, we submit our code and it's automatically tested. Next morning you come in, you get a report. The report says, hey, you did a good job, right? This is the way we should work. But most people don't work like this. So they put a lot of print statements, then every time. So one other important thing, notice if I go and change the code here, suppose I finish the solution, I can just hit one button and know if I've done the right thing or the wrong thing, yes? Even if there are thousands of functions, I know if I broke something. But if you have print statements, you have to read all the print statements and make sure any one print statement is not broken, right? So it's very wasteful.
So one more question. So in C, let's say we want to write a program, so we'll write all the class and then we'll use the main function and we'll call everything, and then that's how we do it. So, but here, is that the same way, or I mean, we can just.
No. So here it is the same idea, except this function becomes the main this function here, main test, becomes the new main function of your program, and it is responsible for launching the other function. Right, all of the other functions. So this is the execution.
So I can write a new file and create a new file and import and then run it, right?
Correct.
Use print statements and everything, and I can use the self-assertive, assert equal and all those functions as well, right?
Yeah, a new file. Where do you want to put it, Prakash?
So let's say here you have created main test. Let's say I create one more file, main test.1, and then.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. You can create a new file. Give it a try and see. So let me explain something very cool here, okay? Because I did the setup, you can see that it's kind of cool, right? I separated into folders. The testing folder is separated from the source folder. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So if somebody has a new source folder, I can just bring in the files from that, right? So it's really nice to keep your source code separate from your test code. The second thing is when in the test code folder, there's no restriction that I should have only one test file. I can have as many test files as I want. And so now let me just give you a nice word here. This unit test is a package. That package, there are many testing packages in Python. Unit test is the library testing function that comes with Python.
Okay.
It's not my favorite one, but it's okay. We'll just use it for now. Okay. But one of the features of the testing package is to execute all the tests you've written. But its also feature is when you execute this function, when you run the unit test package, it goes to this folder and looks for all files that have the name test in it. And all of them will get run for you. Does that make sense?
Can you repeat that? So if you search for all files which has test in it means,
it's called main test, right? Capital T-S-T.
Okay.
It looks for all files in this folder test that have the name TEST. Somewhere in the name it has a capital TEST at the end of the name.
Okay.
Then it will execute all those files.
Okay.
So if you create a new file, you should call it something like, you can call it Prakash test, right? And then it will execute that for you. So that whole thing is a very complex thing. It's called test discovery. It's a big subject here, but the test the test packages will actually discover all the tests. So not only does it find new files, but if you add new tests, it automatically knows there's a new test here, right? So it'll actually go through the file and look for tests and then execute them one by one.
So do I need to define this function as the new function as test?
Yes.
Like here, everything starts with test underscore.
Exactly. It has to be starting with test. Right. So it's a little fragile, but it's kind of, I guess eventually we get used to it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is fragile because using names as a convention is not a good thing. And if you misspell it, it won't work and so on. But we can talk about it. The point is there are many other testing frameworks also, but this one works in this way. I think in the industry, this has become a little bit of a convention.
Okay. Can you come down this page?
Yeah.
This last two line.
Yes.
Same. This is same across the main file also. Is
Correct.
it something?
Yes, you're asking a very good question, and I will give a short answer, and we can have a longer answer. Okay. So the longer answer to this is these files actually, when you want to execute them, right now you're hitting a button, right? So for example, if I hit the run button, I just hit the run button because it's shorter. This is actually the output that you see on a terminal in your computer.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you had a computer terminal and you ran this code file, you will see this output. Right. So what happens is when you run any Python file, if you remind me next time, I can just open a terminal and show it to you. You take any Python file and you say Python space, in this case, for example, it will be Python space main.py. That is my terminal command. Right? If you say Python space main.py, it will execute the file for you. But how does it execute the file? It can just straight away execute the file. Like if you put just print hello in a file, maybe next time I'll do this. But if you do this, usually what it does is it goes and looks, is there this special signature here? And the special signature says, if it's coming from the terminal, then run a specific function for me. And this one runs the unit test main function. Does that make sense? So let's go to main.py and see what does it run. See, it says if name equals main, then it runs the main function. It runs this function. So this is just a little hook to get the program started, right? So this is Python's way of actually starting the program. If you want to run it from the command line, then you create a main function and you say Python main.py. As soon as you say Python main.py, it will come here and whatever function you have specified here, it will run it. By convention, we call this function main. It makes sense, right? In main.py, you should have a function called main. But you could have called it anything else here and it will run it if you make a new function. But this is the entry point of your program, right?
So you mean to say like in C and other languages that main is a reserve word, right? Here I can use anything. It's not a reserve word, something like that.
Yeah. So for example, if you wanted to call this main1, right? And then I think it should just work. Let me just see. Yeah, it just worked for me. So I don't have to start. This does not have to be main. It just has to be a function. Okay, and then if I of course these two names have to match, yes, because otherwise it will look for main1 and complain I don't know what is main1.
Yeah, got it.
But if it matches, it works. Yeah. So another beautiful thing. I know I went a little fast here. I'm using these tools to make your life easy. Behind the scenes, there's lots of connections going on. This is why we have to spend more time on Python. But we all want to go do data science, so we're going there as quickly as possible. But I think these questions are important and these conversations are important. Okay, so don't hesitate to ask. We'll just manage it as we go. So you have definitely at least 1 or 2 hours of work to play with here. Okay, please spend time, get stuck, write down your questions. That will only make all this ideas solid for you. Okay, please try to. Does everybody feel like you want to go spend some hour, or you're like, oh my God, we'll just wait for next Sunday?
Definitely, we need to spend some time to understand it next time.
Spend time and don't expect when you spend time that everything's going to work. Okay, I don't need that. I just need you to get stuck, have questions, write it down. I'm doing this. Why is it not working? I'm doing that. I got stuck. Just use the time to create all these questions. Okay, then next time you can start with the Q&A right front in the beginning and then work through all of that. Then we'll be all set. Okay, so let me just tell what I did and what I did not do. So today we covered another big topic. We covered the whole topic of testing and also this automated testing for your submissions. So now from now on, we can write all our submissions this way. We also discussed a lot of Python. We did the logic and the if loops and while loops and everything. The one thing that I didn't do for you, how to do collection. So shall we defer this to next time? You guys have the dum to do another 10 minutes of collection. Tired, no? Who's tired? Who's not tired?
Yeah,
Anu is tired. She's like, yeah, I'm going to go.
I'm tired.
So let us stop. Let's do this next time. Is that everyone okay? Yeah. Kiran says.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good idea. So here's my goal for next time. Next time I will talk about collections quickly. And then the bulk of the session, I will start the first chapter on our data management. I will probably start this chapter. So let me ask you guys this. This chapter has to include collecting data from different sources. So I was planning to start with how to read files, how to read data from files. Then I was planning to switch to SQL databases, how to connect Python to SQL. And then the last one is how to get data from web pages or web services. Is this order good, or do you, everybody knows SQL? I can put it in the last or in the first. What, any feedback?
File sequence in this. Yeah, this sequence looks good. Sounds good.
Everybody wants this Python to SQL thing? Okay. Does everybody understand SQL?
Yes.
Okay. So then I have to come. I'm going to start with a quiz on SQL. Okay. Shall I?
Oh.
Well, I will start with the SQL quiz. No, okay. So we'll do that. Okay. I don't know how far I can get, but we'll do as much as we can. So that session, next session after I do quickly collections, we'll switch to files and databases. I think we can definitely finish files and databases. This web thing might spill over into the subsequent session. Okay, we'll see how far we get. Will you be happy if we finish files and databases next time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so then we'll stop here and I'll let you guys go. Was the session okay?
Yes.
Long?
Yeah, it was nice. It was
Good.
nice.
Lots of interesting things, right? Go and play with it, enjoy it, make comparisons to see and your previous learning experiences of these things. We covered a major portion. This thing will be like in college and all, it'll be like a few months of stuff that we covered here. Like testing and all is like 4, 5, 6 sessions. I don't know how many sessions. Don't they, by the way, for the Mindtree folks, don't they give you some compulsory testing training or something or no?
No, Vijay, they don't give any testing training. Prakash got excited. He just came back in the front.
What, Prakash got excited?
Hearing Mindtree, Prakash got excited.
Yeah, of course. No, but Mindtree doesn't give, they tell the clients that they give you a lot of testing training.
Vijay, we haven't got any testing trainings as such.
There's no testing center of excellence and all these things. People come and knock on your door and say, Kiran, let me show you how easy it is to test.
No, there is a testing horizontal in Mindtree.
Yes.
But there is like COE also, but we are not part of that
I see.
horizontal.
The excellence is not coming to you. The excellence is sitting
Yeah. We are trying to reach that excellence through Python.
No, but honestly, I'm saying to you, even though we talked about it as a small topic, it's a beautiful topic. In your day-to-day world, if you can do all this test automation, your projects will become much more robust. You will save yourself a lot of time, right? It does require some discipline to write the tests, but I'm sure that it will help you. And we always do it. We just do it by writing print statements and then we waste our time reading all the outputs and so on. Why do we do that? We do that because it takes a little bit of setup time to set up your test properly and all these things. And to avoid 10 minutes of extra work, we just waste 15 hours of extra work because every day we're going to check all these print statements, make sure things are working. And for Sachin, you can think in ETL, like later as we get along, like how do you test your ETLs right now? You have all these decodes or whatever things here, and then how do you check if something is working?
we create test cases actually, after, and we execute those test cases actually. We have some automated functionality also.
Uh-huh.
Like, yeah, we use that actually.
So how does your how is your test cases thing? How does it look to compared to this? Technically, they should look identical to this, but does it look like this or looks very different?
So it's a different actually. It's not.
Is your testing easier than this or harder than this?
So my testing is easier than this actually.
Okay, why is it easier?
So we don't have to write for now actually, because I am a developer. I don't actually.
Oh, so you just outsource it. You just outsourced it.
Yeah.
Okay, but how does that make sense? Like, you know how the code is working. How is some tester supposed to figure out that the code is doing the right thing?
They sit next to us actually. It's not actually they sit on a different location next cubicle. Actually, there's some.
Still, you have to tell all these words, blah blah blah. Okay. So go back and think about this. Okay, this is all very good stuff, right? For example, this finger counting problem. If you want to write a test for it, right? It takes me 2 minutes to write the test.
Correct.
But if I have some other guy who's a tester, he has to read all this and understand. I say, go write the test. He's like, I don't know what finger counting means. Then you have to sit with him and say, okay, let me explain. Okay, it has to be like this. And then he write half a test and then miss some cases and blah, blah, blah. It's a very wasteful procedure we have right now. Right? So bottom line is, good testers are very valuable. If you find a good tester, buy him coffee and keep him happy. Right? Because that kind of person is hard to find.
Yeah.
Most testers are not very good. You write everything, you tell everything, he will just type it for you. That's it, right? Yeah, Sachin is nodding. I know. I spent a lot of time with these testing people. Okay, it's like usually testing is full of people who want to be developers. They think development is hard, so I'll go after testing. That's it, right?
Right.
But that should not be the case. Okay, I'm saying, yeah, you should. But in some ways, okay. So there's a very famous quotation from Einstein. It says, you cannot solve a problem at the same level of intelligence at which you created the problem. Okay, so I'm going to change Einstein's quote and say, you cannot find a bug in a problem or you cannot test a problem at the same level of intelligence at which you created the problem, the solution. Right? Because writing a solution is hard, but making sure the solution is correct is even harder, right? You have to go to the next level. So you see how the world is run, not set up correctly. Actually, the tester must be smarter than the developer. But we have testers who are weaker than the developers, trying to test the developer's code. How does this supposed to work? Kiran, you're not supposed to say anything to your CEO, you guys, okay?
So I usually have to explain as to what we have done and then they start testing.
I know, but this is not, that's what I'm saying, right? They need to be at the same, and how much explaining you're going to do? Right? You're going to transfer your whole brain into their head. Like in the time you write a test and go home, right? Or not?
Teacher, they have their own brains as well. So they would use only that little bit of information that I would share with them and then they would use their brain.
Yeah, and they, but does that mean that they understand the problem as well as you? Or better than you?
That remains a question, Vijay, because sometimes they understand few things better than us. Maybe they bring those things to our notice, which we might not have even thought.
Correct.
But most of the times, I think, yes, the development team thinks much more than the testing team because they have to write the code.
Correct. Yeah, correct. And I'm saying that is not a good situation, right? But that is the situation that we have created, right? And so I'm saying it's a very inefficient setup. Right? Yep. It's a very, very inefficient setup. And as a consequence, our software is weak. Right? I mean, if the testing team is very up to speed, then you will not be able to pass code that doesn't meet a lot of criteria and everything gets robust. Anyway, we cannot fix this problem. I'm just saying, just be aware of this problem and spend a little bit of your energy trying to understand this whole testing space. Like, how is this supposed to work? We have simple functions to test. It's not even some complicated ETL or anything, just a simple questions, right? Then is testing easy in this case? And if it's easy, would you rather, so here's a question for you, Kiran, would you rather just write this test function or you'll sit there and explain to someone how to write, what is the meaning of the whole thing? You write test functions and say it's done. Just run my test. And you don't even need to run my test. It's automated.
Yep, I think Vijay, by writing these test cases, once I write and show it to them, they'll be able to pick it much reduce.
I know, but then my question is, after that, what are they doing? Are they writing a couple more test cases? Are they not writing more? What are they doing, right? So for me right now, I'm saying my world right now here, my testing has been automated. I just hit this button every day or whenever I want. Somebody says, is your code complete? And I say I ran 6 tests and I failed so many, right? Whatever. I get some information. I'm done. Why I need a whole center of excellence here?
Vijay, Praveen here. So
yes.
I feel that, it's more a psychological thing.
Yes.
For example, batsman judging whether he got out
yes.
is a different story, and a referee or an umpire saying that is a different story.
Yes,
so if
yes.
you are in a different, there is a third person to check that.
Correct.
If you mechanical production and all, where you have assembly lines and all.
Correct. I'm with you, Praveen. I'm just going to add a point here. In cricket, it's correct. That's why we need an umpire. But I want to give a specific example in cricket. We have bails on the wicket, right? And the rule is if the bail comes off the wicket, then you're out. We don't need an umpire to check if the bails came off the wicket. It's an automated test there, right? As soon as the bail comes off the wicket, we know anyone can declare out. It's very easy. The problem with cricket is we don't have automatic tests for thousands of conditions, right? We don't have automated tests for leg before wicket and whatever snick or whatever. We don't have. But the idea is that the idea of testing is why not like bails? We create a test for every one of those conditions. And cricket is a good example. Like leg before wicket is very complicated test. But today with this electronic technology, that you can actually predict the trajectory of the ball. You can do better than the umpire, right? That's why they go to the third umpire. Yeah, we take all these different angle views. Then this is machine learning and data science solution to this problem, right? Once we automated everything and we have a good diagnostic, what is this umpire supposed to do? Just listen to all the machines and lift his finger?
Yes, so it's in that process, right? Yeah.
Right. So the idea is that this is the testing process for cricket. If we get all this done, then we can send the umpires home. I don't think we need, of course, because of tradition, we want a guy in a white coat standing there and lift his finger. So also in companies for tradition, we want a center of excellence and a guy has to sign off on some paper. Okay, fine. But the value add is getting less and less, right? As we automate more and more, the value add of this extra person is getting less and less because the machine and the algorithm is deciding if it's correct or false. And the other thing is the algorithm never fails, right? The algorithm never gets tired. It checks correctly. The human being makes errors. So there we are talking about a future world or a better world where all of the testing is, yes, it's independent third party, but the third party is not a person, it's a machine. Right? Like you test your code, you submit your code. So what I'm saying is right now for our course, grading of your assignment is not done by VJ. I have written the tests. I'm not sitting there and checking line by line, right? You submit your test and you automatically get a grade. Isn't that better than VJ trying to read all the code and maybe I get tired? Maybe sometimes, like they say in India, they just take the weight of the paper, right? Is it heavy? Okay, we'll give more marks. All kinds of silliness humans do, right? The machine will do it correctly every time. So it is a long journey. It's a mindset shift. But I think it's for this kind of problem, it's the correct mindset shift. We must automate the testing and take it away from people. People are not good at this. People are good at writing the test. People are not necessarily good at evaluating the test. People are good at coming up with the criteria, right? What is the criteria for something being correct? Machines still cannot do that well. Although people will tell you that machines can use AI and just figure out what the test is, but that we are not ready to yet. So we must be very skillful in where we use the people. And I'm saying for those who are testers and so on, there's a future where if today they're spending a lot of time running things and checking things, that should all get automated away, technically. We'll see. I don't know, right? If you cannot automate testing, how can we have a self-driving car on the road? It doesn't make any sense. The car has to test and pass so many conditions without crashing into anything, right? Then I cannot check my code automatically. It has to be possible. So anyway, this is a beautiful topic, very important topic. It touches on what is the meaning of code, what is the correctness in code. It affects our industry in a deep way, right? So this is a very big, beautiful topic. We can talk more about it, but for today, at least I wanted to place these thoughts in your mind, right? And of course, I'm saying, I'm not suggesting we should treat testers we should abuse our testers, right? But we should gently guide them to this better world where they are thinking about which is the right way to add value. And they are developing the skills to write all these automated tests. And that would be very nice, right? You describe a problem. They come to the design meeting. While you're writing the code, they figure out what test to write. This would be very cool. But I think we're still far away from having that. So anyway, with that said, okay, I will let you guys go. It is Mother's Day in America for those who are mothers, and I guess fathers, everyone. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wish you all
Yes.
for the happy
Okay.
Mother's Day.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, we'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
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 If you have any questions, send me email, okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Sachin will testify. I reply pretty quickly. See you. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye.